All right, we're recording.
Not
Mark and I were talking to Talk Story, and Mark said this should be on the podcast. So we're putting it on the podcast. The first topic is MGs, by the way. What does MG stand for, by the way, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a British make. I know that. Not to be confused with the TR6 or the Fiat. Those were other two small two-seaters, small sports cars. But a buddy of mine did have an MG. His name was Dave Williams.
Morris Garages.
Are you on your AI chat?
No, that was good old compliments of Google.
Thank you.
Yes.
I did not know that. I don't know that I would have ever heard that. But that's good to know. And so I wonder if Mr. Morris was a good Brit. What if he was a British fella?
Sure, he was a good Brit, for sure.
But the memory I had from high school, and this buddy of mine, he actually played high school baseball. He was a fine-looking chap. Since we're on the British bro, he actually was.
Fine lad.
Kind of a chick magnet.
Handsome chap.
He was a nice looking fella, Dave Williams, and he had an MG, and it was a lot of fun. They're almost like a rattle trap. They're very light, very low to the ground. You can feel the vibration and the rumble, but it was kind of fun to tool around in. Yeah. And
so that's awesome. Yeah. So they're great cars. Well, I was telling a story.
I won't tell you the escapades that we had.
I'd love to hear some escapades.
Yeah, well, probably not even PG-13. It goes beyond that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not.
All right. Well,
those were BC moments. That's before Christ.
So. Okay. Well, mine is relatively innocent. I was a young lad. So Phil Maddox, he was getting married to Kathy Averze. And it was like 86, 85, somewhere around there. He had this MG, and we were getting it all decked out. The kids were like, oh, let's go decorate this car,
Yeah.
And so we had this bright idea to crack that hood open. And as we were saying, the hood opened frontwards, not backwards. Yeah. And I don't know why, but the car was running. The car was on when we opened up the hood. And I had like this big old roll of toilet paper. And we were like, somehow, like I threw the toilet paper across the engine compartment, across the intake into the carburetor. And wouldn't you know, into the intake goes the toilet paper. And the MG was shut down from that moment. And there was no starting it up because that toilet paper had been sucked into that carburetor. And I was, like I said, I was 12 years old, and I've never told this story to anybody, but I am like 99% sure that I was the reason that poor Phil Maddox and Kathy Averze couldn't take that MG into the sunset from the parking lot.
Hilarious. Was it at the church parking lot?
It was right in the church at the front of the walk entrance to the fellowship hall there.
Oh my gosh, I know. Yeah. That's a funny story.
And
well, that obviously took place before my time.
Yeah, that was
before I came on board, before I boarded the ship.
Yeah,
that's a great story. That's funny.
And I've never told anybody that. And I don't, Kathy, if you're watching this, I love you, sis. But I apologize because if you remember that night you were supposed to leave the church in Phil's MG, it probably didn't go because I threw some toilet paper across.
Yeah. So another shout out to Kathy. If I'm not mistaken, she was always very kind, and because she was in graphics.
She was an art. I think she still does photography and graphic art.
Photography, I know, but she was kind enough early on, I want to say, to design our logo. I think.
Oh, really? For Hearts on Fire?
Do all that stuff. But then also, you remember I created and wrote several different tracks, gospel tracks. She would help me design them and print them and have them ready to go to the printer.
Yes.
A bunch of different ones.
Yes.
Yeah, she was always like very. She was very eager to kind of lend a hand, lean in, and participate and help with her talents. I would go down to her little studio. It was on the west side, Riverside area.
Yeah, I think it was Riverside. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, trying to just stir the memories, but she was always very sweet and very helpful, and she did most all of it. I want to say a lot of it pro bono. So
that's
anyway,
awesome.
shout out to her.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So the MG was Phil's, and Phil was our AV guy in a lot of ways at the church, did a lot of stuff.
He was in a lot of, he was kind of Gary and him had that connection.
Yeah.
And like you said, he had a fantastic, he was the intro and outro, I think, on the television show, The Voice.
Right. And remember they had this
program.
Yeah. Remember they had the studio downstairs?
Of course.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, you may not remember this, but of course the Wiggins were, and we're kind of going down memory lane with Evangel Temple.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know that we necessarily.
Our audience might not. I mean, some will, but yeah.
Relate. But they had TV studio and radio studio there on site.
Yes, I do remember both.
I learned a little bit from kind of shadowing, probably more Gary. And then I actually had a Hearts on Fire radio program for a snippet for a short period of time.
Really? Yep. Really? Wow. Yep. The original podcast.
I guess I didn't think about it in that sense.
That was, we didn't have iPods, so there was no.
Yeah, I think it was a brief message, a snippet, an intro, an outro, maybe a shout out. You would remember this too. Remember when we would have the camcorder, and we would try to do video announcements?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Wow.
One of them in a dumpster where you pop up out of a dumpster. I don't know if you were in on that shenanigans.
I vaguely remember some of that stuff. Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Man, good times.
A lot of good memories, yeah.
Well, how you doing this week, buddy? How are you?
Doing well. We've had a wonderful, my wife had another trip around the earth, and so
was it Stacey's birthday this week?
Yeah, we celebrated her birthday was Saturday. We celebrated her Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and she's not one to be all about like celebration in herself, but it was really nice getting the family together. So I surprised her, and we had a really nice time and did something special Friday, then Saturday as well, and then Sunday we went to the Columbia restaurant Sunday evening, and she didn't know, but my daughter and her husband, and then Adam, our son, and his wife and the baby, they surprised her, and we all showed up together and had a nice celebratory dinner at Columbia Restaurant in Tampa.
Nice.
So it was a good time. Yeah. That was, and we're already at Tuesday, but and back to work yesterday, but it's been good.
Question about the Columbia Restaurant. Do they still have those? Do they still have those hand chairs at the one in Tampa?
Describe a hand chair.
Well, they're like these chairs that are like hands, and you like sit in them, and like I vaguely remember. I thought it was the Columbia. There were some photos from my family in Columbia at the Columbia restaurant in Tampa. We always go to the St. Augustine one. My family typically would go to the St. Augustine one.
Okay.
But they love it's a Cuban restaurant, right?
Well, it's either third or fourth generation, owned and operated. Started in either Google it, but it's either 1905 or 1907.
Okay.
And then since then, the family has expanded in multiple different other restaurant cuisines and types.
Yeah.
Super successful. And he's also very philanthropic. He's connected to the organization I'm privileged to work for, the Salvation Army. A little bit of a shout out. He's been very, very benevolent with the Salvation Army, and he's a good man, good family man, good values. And I think they treat in the menu. I was intrigued by the menu. So I opened up the menu and I was overwhelmed by the choices and what I'm going to have for dinner. And they have little snippets of some of their history, even in the menu, let alone the restaurant where there's photographs and all these different pieces of memorabilia. It's very much a treasure trove of history in Tampa. And even the ethnic part, as you mentioned, Cuban owned and operated. But one of the pieces on the menu talks about he started as a busboy and he was known as the singing waiter. and he served there for 58 years.
Wow.
He was employed there.
That's amazing.
Years. He unfortunately passed several years ago. But isn't that amazing for any employee to stay at a restaurant?
Yeah.
58 years.
Incredible.
And he became loved and then requested because he became known as the singing waiter.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Joey, was he in the family? Or just
I don't think he was. I think he became part of the family. He was endeared to them. So anyway, we had a really delightful time. So what about you? Is your wife gone?
Yeah, she's in the Philippines. She left on Friday morning, and she's there for a few more weeks. And I miss her. But yeah, she's out. So
all right. So tell me, here's a tell. What is the bachelor life in the Wilkerson crib household different now than when she's not there versus her being there? Like, you have more latitude to what? Like, what do you do? Or don't do?
Yeah, the kitchen is it doesn't have the beautiful smells coming out of it. And it's basically sandwiches and chips are kind of my it's my
DoorDash at all, or I don't know if that's a thing.
I could, but I just just typically make my own stuff for the most part. And then let's see here. Yeah, pretty chill, man. I've watched the last couple of nights. I watched an interesting piece on Netflix. Over like 4 episodes, I think it was. Very interesting conspiracy theory that I watched, which was very interesting.
Is that one of the ones maybe that's trending now? I
think it is. Yeah, it is trending. Yeah.
Do you recommend it?
I would. It's really interesting.
You want to give a shout out for the title? Put it in the chat. We'll type it in the chat.
Let's see if I can remember the name of it. I think it's actually, I don't really know. Let's see here. Oh, The Octopus. It's called The Octopus. Yeah.
Heard of it.
The Octopus Murders or something like that. American Conspiracy, The Octopus Murders. Yeah. And so I watched that. I'm always a good I'm always a sucker for a good conspiracy theory. And it's good. I would say it's worth a watch. It's like 4 episodes. Nice. It's a little bit slow to start. But it's very interesting. It's a story of a guy that uncovers the State Department basically essentially steals a computer software from a guy in the early 80s called Promise, Promis. And it was originally created, the Department of Justice, not the State Department, Department of Justice. And it was initially designed to help look up case law and connect, defendants, right? Or plaintiffs or whatever. You can just put them in and you can see whatever cases they've been connected with. Well, long and short of it, The Octopus is about 8 different high-level people. One of which is George Bush Sr., who was the director of the CIA before he became president. And then also another gentleman, I think another Herbert, who was also another director of the CIA. And it's all connected. So they ended up using
Herbert Hoover. That would have been before.
No, not Hoover. I think it was Haber, or I can't remember. There's 8 of them. But essentially, there's a guy that's doing a study, a report. He's writing a book about this software and how it was basically foisted from the guy that created it, and stolen essentially by the Department of Justice. And it's really it's a very interesting story. And so he ends up
maybe to digress for a second, when we jump into the pod. One of the other podcasts, I listen to a lot of podcast content, I should say.
Okay.
It's pretty varied. And one of the podcasts that I like, I think I've shared this with you because I have always enjoyed soccer, played soccer as a kid growing up, and then in youth leagues and beyond that in high school and beyond that, actually. but there's a podcast that I enjoy listening to, and it's Alexi Lawless, and it's a State of the Union address. Alexi Lawless is a former U.S. Men's national soccer team player, flaming red hair. He was always a little bit of a lightning rod, very charismatic player on and off the field, but high intellect. And he's had this podcast on for many, many years. So it's in the world of soccer, it's pretty well known or listened to. But what he does with his co-host, David Mossy, is the first thing they do before they actually do the content, they'll ask, so what have you been watching? Do you watch anything new? What are you watching? So I like that. We could just kind of did that, although you shared with me what you're watching. I haven't done that as of yet. So I would like to plus that or supplement that and say not only what are you watching, but what are you reading?
Oh, that's a good one.
Not only what are you watching, but what are you reading?
Yeah. You know what? I'm more than reading. I'm actually going through something right now. This gal named Cody Sanchez. She has a company called Contrarian Thinking, and it's something called the Investor Operating System. And I'm going through that right now, which is really good.
It's almost like a course.
It is a course. It is a course.
Okay.
Done by Cody Sanchez. I recommend any of Cody Sanchez's stuff, dude. She is next level. She focuses on buying businesses, and she's got a very good thing. So that's probably the biggest one. AI superpowers. I started reading that one. Actually was talking about that one on our first one. So been breezing through that one. Yeah. And then The Lazy CEO is a third. So, but my focus right now is on the Investor Operating System, which is really good. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And you know, one of my favorite quotes from Investor Operating System. Let me just share this with you, and you'll appreciate this, I think. But you do long-term things with long-term people. Like that's the way you think. So many people, especially when they're investing, they think short term. They think quick buck. How can I get the
second?
Oh yeah.
I had to let our
Maxie out.
Max, I let him in.
Oh, okay. What's up, Max?
I think my wife left the house for a little bit, and he's lost and undone when she's gone. So Max has joined the pod.
What's up, Max? How you doing, buddy?
So
long-term games with long-term people, or long-term.
I like that.
People. And
so
yeah.
What I'm going to dip into next is, are you familiar with Hillsdale College?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so they offer a lot of free courses online, and one of them is C.S. Lewis content. And so I'm going to, I started this a couple of years ago, but I'm going to resume it. I'm going to pick it up, just learning more about C.S. Lewis and his writings, his incredible thought process, his theology, and just kind of a deep dive and learning more about C.S. Lewis. And then as far as reading, I just finished another book, and I've got my Arnold book on the way. It's delayed, and I don't really care for that. I told you about the Schwarzenegger that I listened to the podcast.
Oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
On Jocko podcast.
Yeah.
He had Arnold. He featured him. It's like an hour and a half long, something like that. And out of that, the name of the book is, I believe it's just Be Useful.
Okay.
And 7 Keys to Unlocking. I'll get the title up here in just a moment. It's, Be Useful, 7 Tools for Life. And it was an intriguing podcast. I learned a lot about him, and enough to say, I'd like to take a stab at the read on this. And so that will be future podcast fodder.
Okay.
The book that I just finished is an older book that I resurrected, and it's by a leadership guy, entrepreneur, more probably regional, but his name is Jack Lanham, and there's a shout out for him. And the title of the book is People First.
Okay.
He is skilled and gifted in a number of different ways. This particular author, I guess, he's probably easily in his 70s now, perhaps older than that. I don't know. But he is skilled in martial arts in a particular specific domain of martial arts and learned from some of these practitioners. He's also a memory expert. He does these seminars and conferences that his recall is phenomenal. It's beyond belief. He presents and integrates the crowd and gets them involved in all these different things.
Nice.
He teaches on it, a variety of other things. But the book People First is based. It's a little bit of an allegory, and he uses actually a martial arts instructor who's like if you take the Kung Fu idea and, it would be Daniel-san's teacher. What was his name?
Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi. Thank you. He would be like a Mr. Miyagi in the book. And he basically, as the title suggests, it's people first, putting people first. And he uses a people first pyramid. And I thought I dipped into this the last time we spoke or potted, but
I think the first time I think you went through a little bit of it, maybe on our first podcast, I believe.
Yeah. So anyway, having read that, I just texted this out to a friend. So this is something you can do. Obviously, it needs to be heartfelt and not just contrived. But the first line is 5 words at the bottom.
Oh,
of the
yes.
pyramid.
Yes. Yeah. You did this at the end.
3 words, then 2 words, and 1 word.
Yeah.
And so for the sake of the conversation, so then I'll wrap it up and say that's the book I just finished, and I enjoyed it. It was a good refresher, pretty easy read, and also a short read. But the principles remain unchanging. And so the first one he says, and I've actually told you this, not on camera, but many, many times I've told you this. So the first one, 5 words, is I am proud of you.
Sure. Yeah.
The second phrase, 4 words, I believe in you. The third, 3 words, I need you. Now you kind of have to sometimes let that just simmer a little bit.
All right.
I need you. And then 2 words, love this, very simple, thank you.
And then 1?
Yep, yes. And you know what yes stands for?
What?
You expect success.
Nice. You expect success. I love it. Very good.
How about another yes acrostic? Yahweh enables success.
Oh, that's really good. I like that one a lot.
So the whole book is adding value to others. Every human being is created in the image of God with unlimited dignity and worth and potential. And I think that sometimes, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's regional things, whether it's experiences, disappointments, setbacks, we lose. It's easy. There's a tendency to lose focus and be very judgmental, be very quick to rush to judgment. And this is a nice reset that everyone is made in the image of God, and that God loves everyone, and that we ought to treat others with dignity and respect, and that there is virtue, whether that's been wasted, ignored, suppressed, or whatever. And so people first, people bring out the best in other people.
That's good. I like that. I like that a lot.
So
I'm also there's a similar book called Who Not How, which I like, which kind of has
Who Not Hal?
Yeah, it's Who Not Hal, H-O-W, not Hal. Which is really it's an amazing. Actually, you've heard of the 10X concept from Grant Cardone?
Yeah.
He's the original. This gentleman that wrote Who Not How, he actually wrote the original whole concept of 10X before Grant made it big, which is interesting. But
what I also find interesting in the conversation, in our discourse, is you are absorbing content, reading, listening, learning, digging into a lot of contemporaries, whether it's sales or any other realm. Whereas I love give me some Oswald Chambers, give me some
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, give me some Andrew Murray, give me some Charles Finney, give me some Charles Spurgeon, give me some even Billy Graham.
Sure.
So I say it this way: for every one book you read that's contemporary, you should read 3 classics, and that could be Charles Dickens or any other quote unquote secular literature. Could be To Kill a Mockingbird, or I think you referenced a book that you read in elementary school, The Last Pod. I'm trying to remember what it was. You did. You referenced some kind of book.
Okay.
Red Badge of Courage.
Don't think so.
Okay. But you've heard of that book?
I don't know if I've heard of that one or not, actually.
Get it up, Google it.
Okay.
Yeah. Your free time. But the point is, I think for every contemporary, and that's still in the Christian, there are so many Christian books trending with authors, and I'm not dismissing them, but as Ecclesiastes said, no, there's nothing new under the sun. In other words, a lot of these are rewrites of whatever.
Yeah.
And as far as like Puritans, Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan, classics.
Pilgrim's Progress. Yeah, I almost put a roll-em in on Sunday of Pilgrim's Progress, but it was an animated one, and so I was like,
okay.
I'm good.
But I guess I'm just saying, in the season in life I'm in, I'm more given to that type of content.
Yeah,
but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so that's long format conversations with all kinds of contemporary, people coming on and speaking and sharing their mind, or really promoting a book. Half the time, that's what some of them are. Which is fine. So anyway.
Yeah. How do you like Joe Rogan?
I think he's obviously super successful. He's sort of quote unquote nailed it. I don't listen to him, and I don't think there's any specific reason why I don't. And my son used to listen to him a lot more than he probably does now. My daughter listens to, not him per se, but as far as in the podcast world, I'll always say, what are you listening to? Same with my son-in-law, and just want to find out, what are they listening to and what are they reading? Kind of like we just started a few minutes ago. What are you watching? What are you streaming lately? But then also, what are you reading? And to be fair, I watch television, I watch streaming services, but I'm enjoying kind of a resurgence, a rediscovery of not only reading, but not even enjoying it, but loving it.
Okay. Good.
So it's not punitive that I have to.
That's good. So let me pause you there. So we started with what am I watching? What am I reading? And I shared a little bit. You shared a little bit about what you're reading. What are you watching?
All over the map. And
what was something you watched recently that you?
My recollection is so terrible.
Did I catch you off guard? Something I've been catching up as far as, which is interesting, and it's so like Gen Z, it's not even funny, but it's called Sunday Cool or Butterflies and Ninjas or something like that. And
I don't know about it.
It is so Gen Z. Like these are like late millennial, either or early millennials. I don't know. I guess they'd be late millennials or early Gen Zs. I don't know. They're kids that are probably in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And covered with tattoos. Not that that's neither here nor there. Personally, not my personal preference for my own, body, but it is what it is. But they're believers, they're Christians, and these kids, I will say, they go a little bit far on the craziness spectrum, on the entertainment, on the tchotchke kind of, they do silly stuff. They've got like these silly little things that they do. It's kind of funny. Like there's 4 of them. One of them is a guitarist, musician. Another one is, and then there's like the 2 guys that are sort of like the main characters. And then one of the guys' wives is sort of like the little, the hen in the corner always squawking about something, which again, it's their shtick, and it's kind of funny, and they've got millions of views. But I've actually, they do some long form stuff, and I've taken in a little bit of their stuff recently, which has been interesting. They talk about
millions of views. This is not a streaming thing. Like, this is YouTube videos.
I found them on YouTube. I don't really. That's YouTube is kind of my primary source for content, honestly.
Gotcha.
Usually, if I really want to listen to something, I'll like move. And it's going to be audio only. I mean, but even then, like I have the YouTube Premium, so I get like I don't get ads, and I can just listen to it instead of watch it.
Nice.
So,
well, you asked what I was watching. Now I do recall.
did you remember? Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
It's an older show, but it's Freddie Highmore, The Good Doctor.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It's on Amazon Prime right now. I kind of like that. It's funny.
What's it about? What's the premise of The Good Doctor? What's the premise?
He is a autistic. Growing up, he had actually a brother, but tough upbringing. But he and his brother ran away from home because of an abusive situation. This is like, okay, season 1, episode 1, going back years ago. But he is autistic, but gifted. And almost, I don't know if the term savant is accurate or correct, but he then studied and overcame all the obstacles and went through all the hoops that one needs to do to become a medical doctor. And he's a surgeon, and he's highly skilled. And so the show brings out the nuances of him being autistic relationally, how it's very awkward. He's very direct. He's offensive to people, and it can be very polarizing. Then he has an interest, a young lady in his life, and it shows about the dynamics, the relational interconnections with the other doctors and nurses and staff, and then patients, like how he addresses a patient who's got cancer and they're dying. He has no filter. And so, but he's highly skilled, and so
his bedside manner is lacking a little bit.
What's that?
His bedside manner is lacking a little bit.
There is no bedside manner. Yeah. No, it's kind of, there's humorous, it's quirky, but it's also heartfelt as far as, the storyline. Ultimately, it's filled with hope. It's also filled with a lot of tragedy, and the supporting cast, they're very good. The Good Doctor, I don't know how many seasons, it's multiple seasons. And I kind of returned to that. Stacy likes a lot of the British shows, and I will have to say the British, whether it's crime, detective, police, murder mystery kind of stuff, whodunit, and they're in usually series or seasons.
Yeah.
The British acting and storylines, in my opinion, they are compelling and fantastic. So we do watch a good bit of those types of shows.
Yeah, the Brits. You know who also is really good? Are Asian, like Japanese drama, believe it or not, and Korean as well. If you can, dude, those are like next level, heartfelt, dude, there's some really good.
Now, is it AJ influential at all in any of that?
Maybe a little, but I mean, I lived in Japan for some years, and so I'm no stranger to it. But man, where I've watched some is on flights. How they'll have like an international section if you're doing if you're watching the movies or whatever. If you're for me, we do a lot of trans-Pacific flights. I mean, all of our flights are trans-Pacific unless I'm doing inter-island. And so, I'm like minimum 5 hours or whatever if I'm going anywhere.
Okay.
And so, there's always going to be an entertainment system on the seat back, right? And so there will be recent releases, the series, and then they'll be international. And I usually go straight to the international for just that reason. I don't know if I've seen any, although All Creatures Great and Small, you talk about the pithy Brit inspired, I don't know if did you ever watch that one? All Creatures Great and Small?
It doesn't sound familiar.
It was a series of books in the 70s, maybe the 60s. And it was a story about a countryside vet in the United Kingdom somewhere. I don't know if he's outside of London or where he was at, but he was in the countryside in London or in England. And oh my gosh, it was I don't know, I think they had it on PBS or something when I was a boy, and my family would watch that and just die. But he had books, and he would tell stories about people and their pets and their, it was pretty good. But anyway, I love the international genre. But Asia, believe it or not, they can tell some stories. In fact, AJ and I, when we were in Japan, we picked up on this one. I forget what it was, but it's comedy, romance comedy. It's
Funny.
next level. This one.
Do you watch? My son watches some of this stuff. Do you watch any anime? I don't watch any of it.
I'm not a big anime guy. No,
Okay.
usually if the only time I'll watch animation is if it's something that my daughters are taking in, and that's kind of it. But
Yes.
not a big anime guy.
So speaking of your daughter, this is just a total different shift,
Sure.
like a hard right.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking about your oldest, Aria.
Okay.
What do you think she'll quote unquote grow up to be? What does she seem inclined to? What has she said or verbalized? What does she study?
Good question.
Obviously that can change, but do you have like a hunch? And tell me what that space is like, having a child in that kind of like discovery. I know she's probably high intellect. So what do you see that evolving into for her?
I would say I know whatever she is, she's going to be 1,000 times more successful than I'll ever be. And she's super bright, and she's really creative. She loves to create. So with all types of mediums, whether it be building things, whether it be art, like pastel. Right now she's on this is round 2 of slime creation. I was FaceTiming her on Saturday night, and she was telling, we spent probably 45 minutes of her.
So it sounds like she went with AJ.
No. She's at her mom's house right now.
Okay.
Yeah. She's at her mom's house like every other week. Yeah. And so we FaceTime, and so her mom got her all the components. And so we spent probably 45 minutes on FaceTime on Saturday night while she was, or no, I think it may have been Friday night. I can't remember, Friday night or Saturday night. And she was just going through, and she wanted to make Hawaii Property Advisors themed slime. If you can imagine that. So she made it dark blue. She had these little white foamies in it. She was like adding all the different, activators and stuff. And so that's kind of her. But to answer your question, I think it's too soon to tell.
Sure.
She hasn't sometimes there'll be kids that are just like savants right out of the gate. That's they're like, I want to do this. And then they're just locked in on it for like forever, and she's not really, played that out yet. So, she's got they're working on something kind of fun that I've got coming up on the horizon here. You've heard of the USS or the battleship Missouri, the USS Missouri. So I've been selected as a chaperone for the 5th grade class that's going to be staying the night over one night at the USS Missouri. So
congratulations.
I don't know, or congratulations or condolences, one of the two.
So where in Hawaii is that?
It's in Pearl Harbor, and so it's docked at Ford Island. And so it's a famous battleship. That's where they ended World War II. They literally signed the treaty, or Japan signed their surrender on that on the deck of that battleship. And so they have there's a restoration society, or like a society of people that kind of keep up with it. There's like a nonprofit. And so they and that this is the thing, is like they always host kids to do sort of like an overnight on it. And so I'm going to get to do that with her class. So I'm looking forward to that. So
that sounds, how soon is that coming up?
It's like 3rd week in April, I think it is. So
not too far off.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. I thought that would be a nice conversation starter, because
did your kids, when did your, she's 11. She's 11. Yep. Yeah. When did your kids did they, because your kids are all adults. Andrew is 20. How old's Andrew now? 23. Okay. So he's
30.
Andrew's 30. Wow. Where does the time go? My goodness.
Yeah. Adam,
Lexi's the youngest.
Myself. So Lexi's 28.
Yes.
I'll stair step it.
Okay.
Lexi's 28. Andrew just turned 30 last month, and Adam in May will be 35.
Nice.
That's so there awesome. You go.
Okay.
And of course they have a child, and Aiden actually in next month in April will be 1 year old.
Okay. Nice.
So
yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, very, very cool, man.
But if your question was like, when did they learn or discover?
Yeah. Or did they lock in on anything? I know Lexi's a nerd.
They still haven't.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay. Yeah. But Lexi,
I tease.
Does she love being a nurse? She seems like she would be like the perfect nurse. Does she love it, or is it not her favorite?
I'll let her answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'll see her this summer. Dude, healthcare in 2024 it's so challenging because it's such a business. And
speaking of healthcare and speaking of business, do you have any connection or relationship with your previous shop, friends, co-workers that you spent quite a bit of time with? Was it Medline Industries?
Yeah, good old Medline. Yeah. I still have strong connections with Medline.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. My VP was not happy to see me go whenever I left 3.5 years ago now or so. Actually, I think it's been right around 3 actually officially. But yeah, we still stay in touch. In fact, this gets broadcast on LinkedIn. So to all my Medline family, what's up, guys?
Okay. Well, I would say you navigated the transition from that world to what you're currently doing quite well. So kudos to you. Again, I celebrate your success. I know you're humble about it, but God has been good to you, but you also work your tail off.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So
former boss and CEO, he used to say, former boss and CEO of the previous organization I was with, he used to say, pray hard and work hard and pray that God blesses your work.
Amen.
I think that's a good axiom.
That is a great axiom. That's a great axiom. So, well, very good, man. So let's see, what else are we going to talk about, man? What was that organization that he was from?
Oh, that I used to work for?
Yeah.
Oh, Teen Challenge.
Oh, that was from Teen Challenge. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
I will tell you, here's something we can chat about because I sent you this.
You want to talk about that?
Reference it. I don't know if you can open it up, but basically it's from an email I received. But I'm a fan of this. I believe in this. I hope that I'm somewhat of a practitioner of this. But it talks about meetings. Okay. And the title of the article was "Clarifying Next Steps Before the Meeting Ends."
Yeah.
Okay. So the conclusion they came to is pretty much action steps, action points. People call them different things.
Always have a plan. Always have an exit. Always have a justification. Like a point.
Correct.
Always end with a reason. Like, okay, what did we? What they always say. Like, you've heard this, right? Talk about what you're going to talk about. Talk about it, and then talk about what you talked about. And then the natural follow-on was that is like, okay, and then what? But having that follow-on is always otherwise it's a waste of time. Nothing worse than
what am I responsible to do, and who am I responsible for? Timelines. When is this to get accomplished? Are you empowering me with time and resources and people to accomplish the task? Those kinds of things. And so for a lot of years in a different setting, we had a weekly meeting, and I don't know. Staff, they disdained it, endured it, or some may have liked it because there was free food as far as breakfast. We would always have plenty of like fresh fruit and pastries and coffee and juice. It was, just for the meeting, that was all good. But out of those meetings, not that I was great in leading it or mediocre or poor. I'm not assessing that, but I can tell you this. There was action points of, okay, and we would go around the table. The way I handled it is I would actually have the staff member, if we covered what his or her responsibility was to be, say in that given week or month, I would have them repeat it to the entire group. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I understand is my responsibility. And so for me, I felt good about that because that helped to leverage and maybe deepen the accountability because they were repeating back to their team members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it wasn't really autocratic and, top-down type of leadership. It was shared responsibility, but shared and mutual accountability also.
Yeah.
They would repeat back, here's what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'll be taken care of. And so I like that. Other thoughts on meetings as far as takeaways?
No, I always do that. If I've got a meeting, I don't have to necessarily ask people to repeat, but I will always, and I've led a lot of meetings over the years. Board meetings are the ones that I refer to mostly in various organizations and whatnot that I've served in. But if I'm leading a meeting, I'm always going to end with, okay, this is what we talked about. And then this is where we're going to go. And these are the next steps. And so this person's going to do this person's going to do that, this person's going to do that. And then also not just to do, but also a suspense. So a date. So by X date, we'll have this, by X date, we'll have that kind of thing. And generally that's fairly successful. The key is obviously there has to be follow-up. There has to be, to ensure that things are getting done. And that's where I think a lot of leaders drop the ball, is in that follow-up piece, because you can talk about it all day, and if you'd like, but until there's actually been a follow-up and an actual reconfirming that it's actually getting done, it's more just words, So
yeah, when you hold your meetings, and this was something also I did my best to integrate. Most organizations will have a mission statement, and then their values. They somehow, some way can articulate their mission or vision, and then their values. Sometimes it could be posted on a wall or printed, or on a website.
Yeah.
We had seven values, and I thought they were very good. But I would take a value each week and revisit it. We would repeat it, maybe underscore it with a little teaching, some brief, a metaphor or an illustration, or even a testimony. So for instance, stewardship was one of them, the values, faithfully managing God's resources. And so what would that mean in the context of a given meeting? We just touch on it, just revisit it. I thought, do you have any thoughts on that type of approach?
No, I think that's brilliant, actually, because it ties the group together. It ties the purpose together. It sort of gives everybody a reminder, especially if you're sort of doing if you've got 7 core values or whatever, if you focus on that one and you tie everything in that meeting around that one, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
So an illustration would be, since we picked stewardship, well, maybe I picked it, you didn't pick it, but you're in agreement with me in picking it. Yes. So we do stewardship and we touch on it, and then we leave the meeting, and when we walk out of the building, then we see a piece of paper on the ground, and one of the staff walks by it, but another staff picks it up. Is there a difference? What's the difference? Did that person who walked by it, maybe they just didn't see it, or maybe they were oblivious to it, but the other person saw it.
Yeah.
Well, they were what I call a first-class noticer. Great article that talks about that, a first-class noticer.
That's interesting.
It's important. It's important to be a first-class noticer, right?
Be observant. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And so
I would say there's levels of observation. There's things that in observation where you can observe the physical and you can observe the space, and then there's the next level. Somebody can be really good at observing, like physically, like all the things that are around them, and then completely aloof to observing the bigger things that like really matter as far as large scale. And that's I think, I don't know if there'd be 2 levels or there'd be more than 2, but at least I can say 2. Where you ever been with somebody where they really are observant and they can pick out anything in the room, like physically, but they totally miss the overall scheme of things, and that's another separate power of observation, I think.
Well, I guess to complete the thought, so if I'll still riff on stewardship. If stewardship is the value, and I actually now remember the subtitle of it, I like this. It was faithfully managing God's call and resources. That's stewardship. I think it captures it nicely. So the one guy walks out of the meeting after we had already talked about the value of stewardship, and he walks by the piece of paper, piece of trash, right?
Sure.
But the next staff person picks it up. And so I would say there are times that where's the disconnect? And I would say, well, that person doesn't necessarily value the values.
Okay.
It's play on words, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So in other words, you can have values posted on a piece of paper or a nicely framed document on the wall, but until they become ingrained and then expressed in you, they're not of much use to you or the organization as far as being transformational. I have another thought on meetings. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I was gonna riff on that last part a little bit too.
Well, do so, because I'll come back to it.
And I think it also sort of depends on the, I mean, I guess it depends on the staff and the level that staff is at. If they're
for sure,
if that is their world and their role to be mindful of those types of things, yeah, absolutely. But if it's a group of leaders and they're managing, profit and loss, or they're managing, tax burdens and things like that, they may not necessarily be focused on those types of things. And so that would
I think that would give them greater reason to pick up the piece of trash.
Well, yeah, but again, it may just be that they may not be focused on it. I don't know the exact situation, but I know I pick up trash. If I see trash, I always do. If I see something, I generally, you want to improve it. But I guess it's just maybe that example I didn't understand the full context of it. But it just depends. But no, that's good. That's good.
And to be clear, in my current role, I'm not really leading meetings. I attend meetings, but I don't lead them.
Yeah.
But I've been in that space in the past.
Right.
So here's a thought, here's a takeaway, a nugget, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I want to get your feedback. I believe, and you do lead meetings, correct?
Yes.
So is it safe to say whoever's leading the meeting should be the most prepared person in the room?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is it also safe to say, I'm going to put a coupling with that, I'm a link. I would advocate that you or me, if I'm not leading the meeting, I should be the second most prepared person in the room.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably
safe. That doesn't always happen though.
Yeah.
It's just
but you know what happens is generally the most prepared person ends up leading the meetings. And it may not be today, it may not be next month, it may be 6 months from now, or maybe 2 years from now. But generally the person that shows up prepared is the one that rises up to the top. How does that think?
So you're saying by default, a person who's not designated to lead the meeting, but is the most prepared ends up leading the meeting? I'm wanting to understand your...
Yeah, because they're the ones that have the preparation, the knowledge, the information. Some people require a lot of preparation for a meeting, depending on the topic, right? Some people prepare and require a lot of preparation. Some people just by nature of their experience are already fairly prepared, and it doesn't take as much
that's true
work for them to prepare because they've just got that locus of knowledge in their head about what
I guess
on the subject. But yeah,
my thought or conviction is that once you hear like the dreaded M word, it's we have to attend a meeting. Oh, it's another meeting to go to. So we know clearly that the individual leading the meeting must be or ought to be the most prepared. But then if I'm attending the meeting, I'm just going to show up. Yeah, I'll have a notepad and, hopefully a resource or two, or there'll be a handout ultimately or a PowerPoint deck or whatever. But you're just enduring it. You're attending it. But what I'm suggesting is that a person who's chasing excellence is going to be the second most prepared person in the room.
Or they could be more prepared than the person that called the meeting too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of various. There's positional leadership. There's knowledgeable. There's depth of knowledge leadership. There's a lot of. I think John Maxwell talks about that a lot too. But yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, in the military, right? Classic example. Just because the guy's a senior ranking officer doesn't mean that he knows it all. Granted, he's going to have a lot of experience, but there may be somebody that's more capable and knowledgeable about the topic than he is. And in that case, again, he's ultimately going to be responsible for sort of the decision making. But yeah, that's a good.
So your staffing, speaking of meetings and your role, we've not talked on this pod a lot about, it's Hawaii Property Advisors.
Hawaii Property Advisors. Yes.
Yeah, we've not talked a lot about it. Do you want to give the audience, obviously you can give a shout out, but maybe for me and my understanding and maybe others, a thumbnail sketch of the size, the scope, and the grind of what you're doing, what it takes, how many on your team.
We sell real estate. And I will tell you, I have actually intentionally I've let one person go, and then we have actually shrunk our team for a variety of reasons. And I'm going through sort of we're morphing right now. We're actually going to be moving into a different segment of the business. I don't know if I told you, I wrote my broker's license last year. And so last week, literally last week, I think.
Well, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
You achieved that? I missed some of that. What'd you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, good sir.
No, I don't know. That's fresh news. That's fresh manna.
It is fresh manna. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. So we're going to be,
that's a bit of a game changer, right?
It is. I mean, in some regards, I mean, I operate as a team leader within my brokerage. There's literally 3 of us. So it's the small, at one time we had up to 6, now we're down to 3, which is fine. There's a hunter, and there's I'm more of the hunter on my team. So I bring a lot of the deals in, and then I've got an assistant who she really helps run everything. And then we've got a buyer's agent who helps with basically a lot of times the buyers will work with her.
So do you do a lot of showings?
I do some. Yeah, absolutely.
In a given week.
It depends. Honestly, it depends on the size of the deal for me. Like if it's a larger deal, like I'm typically going to do it. If it's a smaller deal, I'll typically let our buyers do it, our buyer agent do it. But yeah, it just depends. But I like to do listings. That's my preference. But as far as meetings go, we've played around with it. We were doing we would do a daily meeting, like a daily huddle in the mornings, which is, just jump on Zoom and just huddle. And then we've gotten to now where it's a weekly, basically sort of like a weekly check-in. And it's
okay. So weekly check-in, any format?
We do have a format. Yep. I've got a quadrant that I use that has the, what we're working on, what's on the horizon, the important things from escrow and deal follow-up. So, there is absolutely a system.
Can I ask a question? Because I know a friend of mine who's a realtor here posted recently some information specific to the county listing days on market. What's average days on market there in your space? For
single family right now, it's believe it or not, single family. I need to check, but last month it was still sub 20s.
So it's more robust. I think here, if I read correctly, it's about 45, whereas it used to be 30 or less.
Yeah, we're on I'm sure it's over 20 now.
Okay. And so one of the things he also brought to my attention, and the real estate, I'm really speaking, I say out of turn, but what he has shared with me, he was saying, to use one of your beloved words, essentially, it's not really a buyer's market nor a seller's market. Is that a good way to express it?
It's
Okay.
balancing out. Correct.
Balancing out. And so that still bodes well for a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
not
a lot better than it did 18 months ago. Absolutely.
And then what are you finding on a 30-year conventional, like for as far as loan and interest rates? Talk to me about that.
6.5 roughly right now.
So has it ticked down a little bit?
It's depending on, basically it's like 6.5. Yeah, it has ticked down a little bit. It was like pushing 7. It was right around 7 for a while.
And do you give me a horizon? What do you see in not 1 to 3 years? That may be hard.
I think we'll probably by the end of the year be in the low 6s, maybe high 5s, maybe by the end of the year. There's been a lot of talk. February, the thought was that there were going to be a reduction by 25 basis points or something, but it didn't happen. They kept it right the same.
And another question with respect just to real estate versus the entire economy, how impactful is the upcoming election, or is just all factored in? It's a bundle package.
What do
you have on that?
Yeah, I would say
stable.
I'm not calling it an election. I'm calling it a selection. I think we've already got the candidate has already been selected. Everything else is just they like to let us think that we're choosing, but
man.
That's
all right. But without some of the editorial,
that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah. But what do you see the impact, good, bad, or otherwise, on real estate?
I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on the 12 to 18 month impact. I don't think there's going to be much. Because the Fed is again somewhat separate from the monetary policy of the current administration. They are the administration. It's a trailing. There are trailing effects on the Fed based on the presidential's stuff. But yeah, I don't.
All right, let me take another turn.
Sure.
Kind of relative to real estate. If someone were to say to you, Hal, you live in paradise, I'm thinking about moving there, what do you tell them? Especially say I'm in Florida. I have no sales tax in Florida. Yeah. You can endure the heat and humidity and hurricanes. It's a pretty great place to live. So
you gotta want it. So really there's only 2 reasons that I would say move to Hawaii. Number one, if the U.S. Navy or military is moving you here, that's probably the best reason for somebody to move here. The second would be someone that has cash is not a factor, and they're just wanting to put some in a tropical climate. And but for someone like yourself, I mean, it's expensive. There's I mean, that's what I would tell. And I have these conversations all the time. It's expensive. So if you're not well equipped, if you don't have how do I say it? If you're not okay with, spending the high cost of living that we have, be prepared for it. But yeah, it's expensive out here. There's no other way to say it, man. It's the highest, the most expensive. Yeah. So if you're going to buy real estate out here and you've got, a couple million, $3 million, $4 million that you want to put, and you want to put some of it in real estate, yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
So as on the investment side. All right, let me ask a similar but different question. If I want to not move to Hawaii, but get on a plane and visit Hawaii, and let's say I have 10 days, 10 to 12 days.
Yeah.
Give me an itinerary. Where should I go? You're going to actually be my concierge. So tell me what we're doing.
I want to get on ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, give me a 10-day itinerary. You know what? I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to go. I want to visit it after. So give me a 10-day itinerary. I'm going to do one myself.
That's it. I'm putting you to work here.
and see how I compare to ChatGPT. Okay, so first things first, you're going to be jet lagged when you land. And so, you're going to arrive, if you're coming from the East Coast, especially, your first day will be okay. It's actually not that bad coming this way. When you're coming from Asia, it's a little more difficult, but I would jump right into Oahu. I would head straight into the fray in Waikiki. I would say, spend, 3 or 4 days. I mean, it really depends. Do you want to inter-island travel, or do you want to just stay in one island? Because you can stay in one island and get a lot in 10 days.
I don't know. I'm going with my sensei.
Yeah. Well, then in that case, I would say stay on one island. Maybe do two. I would say maybe do two islands if you're going to do 10 days. So then that would look like a week. So your first, you're going to be kind of exhausted, but you're going to be waking up early. So I would say just jump right into Waikiki, which is it's like South Beach. It's of Miami. I mean, it's just like in its Hawaii version. You're going to have a lot of activities, a lot of things to do. The ocean is nice. There's a lot of really good restaurants. I would say not necessarily to rent a car, because a lot of the tours will include transportation. And so you don't necessarily need to do that.
I thought you were going to show for me.
Oh, well, yeah.
I got that wrong. I apologize.
There's that, I'll show you for a little bit. I'll toss you the keys of the car. You can use my car for a day or two.
Funny.
But yeah, I mean, if you like hiking, Coco Head is a good one. Diamond Head is always a must visit right outside of Waikiki. East side, Kailua is really good. One of the top beaches in the world in Kailua Beach. It's just really amazing. That's a good place to go in the morning. You can hike up and go do the pillbox hike, the Lanikai pillbox hike in the morning. That's a pretty nice one to do. And then, of course, Pearl Harbor is worth a day, and then you can go, Ko'olina sunsets are always nice. You can go get a meal out there. What else? North Shore, of course, you got to go Waimea Bay, the famous, Waimea Bay, where they have the Eddie Aikau surf competition when the waves are 40-foot Hawaiian or bigger.
Wow.
And man, that's something else to go see. I tell you, if you've never seen a Hawaii surf competition, man, it is
no.
And it's a paddle in only. They don't do jet skis at that one. And it's named after Eddie Aikau. Eddie was a famous lifeguard. Actually, he was the first lifeguard in Waimea Bay. And he worked for City and County of Honolulu. And they have these bumper stickers that say Eddie would go. And Eddie was a world-class surfer. It was during the time that professional surfing was kind of burgeoning into the scene in like the 70s. And he unfortunately was trying to save the oh my goodness, my Hawaiian friends are going to kill me, but there's a sailing ship, a Hawaiian cultural sailing ship. It starts with an H. I want to say it's the Ho'okele, but it's not the Ho'okele. Ho'okele is Hawaiian word for navigation, but it was transiting between Molokai and Oahu, and they basically had these giant swells, and they were essentially like drifting, and they needed some help, because it's not a powered ship. It's literally a sailing ship. And Eddie grabbed a surfboard, and they were literally within 5 to 8 miles, maybe 8 miles from shore. The channel itself is only like 30 miles wide. But there's some huge swells. There's a big current that comes through there. But he jumped on his surfboard and started paddling for Molokai and was never seen again. And, but he was doing it to save
sure.
save his ship. And they ended up obviously being okay, but they just never saw Eddie Aikau again. And so because he was such a well-known, established presence in Waimea Bay, which again is on the North Shore, they have the Eddie Aikau annual tournament. And it's only, like I said, only happens, I believe it's either 40 feet or 30 feet Hawaiian, which Hawaiian, they measure the back of the face. They don't measure the front. And so like 40 feet Hawaiian, like is technically like, it's like it's like a 50 or 60-foot wave. Like the
wow.
front. It's crazy.
And you've attended?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah, it's only run like 3 or 4 times in the last 15 years. Maybe not even that many. But it's an amazing thing to see. But it's a really good here. You know what? I'll do a little quick screen share real quick with you. Let's see here. Share screen, entire screen, share. So this is the Waimea. This is it right here, the Waimea Beach Park. So right here is that's the lifeguard stand, and they have a big memorial there to Eddie Aikau. But in the summertime, it's super flat. This was a summertime photo. You can tell because there's sailboats there. If you see the sailboats, but in the winter,
that's an accurate. Just a question. That's an accurate representation of what it looks like currently.
Oh yeah, that's exactly exactly what it looks like. Yeah,
it's just Google Maps. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and so down. I mean, so you can tell it's summer because of, like I said, all the there's no waves. There's this. You can actually maybe even see this is a cliff. They call it the Rock, and people will jump off of the Rock. But that's that's a good spot. Oh, and you know what else is really cool? You see this river right here?
I do.
There's actually videos right now. This guy, I can't think of his name, but this is the Wailua River, or Waimea River. Sorry, and this is the Waimea Valley, and they have the Waimea Falls back here, which is they used to have guys that would like jump off of them, but this is like a cultural botanical garden. Back here, they have this really nice trail that you can walk up. That's really a nice little thing to do. But what I was going to tell you is the guys will dig and they'll connect this. They'll dig this channel out right here. I mean, every few weeks in the summertime, and because the wave action will close it off. Just has a natural sand barrier, but they'll open it up, and then it literally, Mark, it turns into this massive like onshore wave from the freshwater like coming out, and it starts with just a small trickle, and then it turns into this massive wave, and it's really, really cool. And that's right there is where they do that. You probably, maybe, I don't know, if you ever have any surfing content in any of your streams, like you'll see guys dig this out, and it's a freshwater wave, and it's just from this Waimea Valley River coming into the ocean right there. It's really cool. But anyway, yeah. So that's a little.
Well, that was a great diversion. So I don't know if we're doing that on day 8 or 10, but
yeah, that's still inside of that's still inside of day 7. Here's Waikiki over here. You've got Magic Island, of course, there, but this is the world famous Waikiki. This is Diamond Head right here. Stay somewhere like the Hilton Hawaiian Village. It's a great spot to stay.
What about a preferred time of the year? Maybe when, I guess it's always busy, but maybe whether it's climate or population, when is it good to stay away, and when is it good to try to book a trip?
Really, it's year round. It's nice. The peak weeks or peak times are going to be Christmas and New Year's. And then spring break time will get busy. And then, generally the, month of June is usually pretty busy just because of summertime for the summer break. Yeah. But yeah. And then after that, I would say go to the Big Island, maybe for a few days. Come over here to Kona. So this is the Big Island. So after you've spent like a good week seeing, or maybe 4 or 5 days seeing Oahu, then I would come over here to the Big Island, and I would stay. You know where I would stay? I would stay in like the Mauna Kea, or the Mauna Kea is actually really nice. Is it up here? Where's the Mauna Kea? Yeah, it's up north of Waikoloa. Yeah, here we go. Mauna Kea is like an incredible. It's an incredible hotel. So here you see. You see how it's situated. It is it was positioned. So this was actually built by one of the famous families of old, not the Rothschilds or one of those like famous like families. I forget which one it was. And essentially they commissioned an architect to come out. They knew they wanted to build it on this beach right here. And Kauna Loa is the beach name, I suppose. And they had the architect come out and sit and live in a tent on this beach for a year to get a sense of what the tides were like, what the winds were like, what the location, what, you know, just to get a sense of place before he designed it. And so for that reason, I absolutely love the Mauna Kea. It's just absolutely incredible. You can see the portico share right here. This is the entrance. You walk into it and then you just look right outside of there, and you walk through the lobby there, and it's just like an incredible view of the
so it sounds like you speak from experience. You've
been I've stayed there a number of times. I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
And how do you navigate getting there? Because you said it's the big island, Kona, but you live on a different island. So
just jump on a flight, and they have, you know, flights are like $60 one way basically, and then you can get a rental car. This is Kona International Airport. Now Kona is, you can see this black stuff. That's actually the lava there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. In fact, it looks like a Martian landscape out there.
Interesting. Yeah.
A lot of people, they don't. Oh yeah, and this is the Ironman. They run the Ironman right here. So
I see it. Yeah, that's legit high level.
Yeah. What's that?
High level.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the original Ironman is. Right here. So there's tons of athletes that live over here.
Yeah, train. I'm sure they train. Very elite, probably elite folks that are doing that.
Big time. And then you've got down here. This is actually the start and finish spot right here for the swim. They come and do the swim right here, and then they do the run, and then they do the bike. But this is kind of front and center of where the race is, right here off of Ali'i Drive. So you can see they right here off of, this is the area where they do it right here. So, and then you've got a little down here in Kona. This is sort of a little it's kind of like Waikiki, or, you know, kind of like a oceanfront kind of thing. Oh, actually, look, you can see they've got the bleachers set up probably for the finish of the run. But yeah, there you go. Oh, look, they've even got some this one must have been done right around the time they were either
they got the signage out and everything.
Yeah, October 2019.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
very cool.
Yeah. So, but I would say Kona is another good spot, and then you can go up to the Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and these are the large volcanoes that are on the Big Island, and then, you know, head over to Hilo and see the Volcano National Park, and then call it a day.
Yeah. Well.
So.
All right. So as an aside, since you highlighted that, but the Kona and talked about the Ironman, the grit, the determination, and the event and the difficulty level, would you happen to be able to recite the distances without using Google?
Sorry.
Start with the swim. The distance.
The swim is, I believe it's going to be
this is what they call full Ironman.
I believe is it a mile? Is it a mile?
No, it's 2.4. Let's move on next.
So what is that? 5 kilometers? 5 kilometer mile?
No, 3.9 kilometers.
3.9 kilometers. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so let's go to the bike.
I believe it's either 100 and 150 miles.
Close. It's 112.
112. Okay.
And
then it's a marathon, 26.2.
That's correct.
On the run, which is just,
so that's a pretty ambitious. So cumulatively, it's over 140 miles. It's just insane.
What's the closest you've ever done to that?
You know, I don't run and I don't swim, so I'm not a triathlete.
Okay,
I've biked 100 miles in a day, and that's fairly ambitious too. Most people have not done that, but to do an Ironman is you have to train quite a bit
Yeah,
to do
for
that.
sure.
But, so speaking of training, we've trained for almost 120 minutes here.
Yes, sir.
And so is this a good time to jump off? I also like the way you name our podcast. You do the little subtitling and stuff. So what are you going to come up with some genius ideas for our content?
Oh, that's a good question, man.
We'll ruminate on it.
I'm not sure. We'll figure it out.
I know you will. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. But no, man, it's been fun. Episode number 3 in the tank. I got our YouTube thing set up last week, so we should be. I think I got it set up. I think we'll be able to just add it to this one, so it should be pretty easy. So,
well, success to you, and great seeing your face, hearing your voice, chatting with you. And I'll let you sign off. I'm going to let the dog out. And
Max, hello. Can we say hi to Max? Can we see Max?
He's not a lap dog, so he's
already
down here and he's chilled. And he's a large dachshund. He's about 30 pounds. So
okay. Well, give Max a little pat on the head for me.
Will do. All right, my friend.
Buddy. God bless.
Blessings. Yeah. Talk later. Yeah. Bye-bye.